This place, this beautiful lake called Walloon, is gently cradled in the hills of northern lower Michigan, and over my 54 years of spending time here, I've developed a bond and connection that is deeply profound and will last forever. Many others I've met along the way have expressed in their own unique way that they too have a love for this lake that is special, almost sacred. I've committed the last 2 years of my life to filming the natural beauty of this area through the 4 seasons, and also spent wonderful hours recording people as they share their memories, thoughts, and emotions when asked to describe their connection to Walloon. This film represents my desire to capture that spirit and beauty in images and the spoken word. It is a quiet, loving poem. It is a meditation on place.
I loved walking the path, and I loved watching people walk the path, and just sometimes wonder, are they appreciating this like I do? Are they getting the gist of what Walloon is all about? And I hope they all were.
What is the gist?
Johnny.
Yeah,
It's just the way, there's something about it. It may be the spirit of Walloon. It's so magical, and I think it just gets in your blood. And year round, the people just are great. This has too many wonderful memories, and the people, and seeing the generations and change. And it's just new generations coming along of the same family. And I think that makes it extra special.
And people always ask, where I live, why do you keep going back to this place called Walloon? And sometimes I have to correct them about the pronunciation, Walloon. Then they always make fun of Walloon. I tell them that because it's family. There are people that I see only once a year. It's important to me to keep in touch with these people on this lake because this is where I've grown up basically every summer of my life. I've never missed a summer. This is where I learned how to be independent or to take care of myself, look out for my brother, and just being a part of lives up here. And it's all a network. If somebody's hurt or needs help, we all know about it, and we all reach out and comfort that person. The bond with my friends here is forever. In a way, it was hard to explain to people why I would want to come back to this place. I don't get why you live in Vail. Why would you not want to stay here and ride mountain bikes and things like that? Sometimes it was hard to explain, because it was so deep in here that I couldn't articulate the words all the time. they'd say, well, that's great. I have the same kind of place, in the lake that I grew up on. Or, my dad's got a ranch, so I get what you're talking about. And I would get those responses sometimes. They get to ride four-wheelers and horses and, shoot snakes. I get to come up here and drive a boat, sail a boat, water ski, those kind of things. So I think Walloon is special to me as it is somebody else's place is special to them. It's just more special to me.
Just woke up one day as an infant, I suppose, and there I was sitting in my diaper on the end of the dock next to my grandmother who used to wear funny hats. I just remember her hats. I guess in the early 60s, women wore funny hats, and she had the funniest hats. But, I guess I remember just sitting on the dock. I can remember being, God, it must have been 4 or 5 years old, just sitting out on the dock and having a big floppy hat on and just sitting there with a big grin on my face.
I really can claim this as my place of identity. Growing up here, it was very special. I had a wonderful life growing up on the farm, close to the village. I lived close enough to school that I had a path through the woods. In the wintertime, I could go out of my door, grab my sled, which we lived on in the winter up here, did a belly flop down the road, into the woods, down the path, up the first hill, had to walk a little ways, down another belly flop down the hill, and then I was at school. And that's how I got to school. It was a great experience growing up. And once a year I could have a party. My dad would allow me to have either a hay ride or a sleigh ride. He had a team of horses and a big sleigh, and kids always were anxious to find out when I was going to have my party. And we would, if it was a hay ride, we would go down by the dam in the village. And there was a picnic table there in an area that people could picnic. And we would have a bonfire there and cook hot dogs and after the hayride. If it was a sleigh ride, well, then we would come back to my folks' house and have hot chocolate and cookies or chili or something like that. It was just a neat thing to do.
We see some things that are just very special. I mean, in wintertime out on the lake, when it's frozen, I mean, deer will walk across the lake and we see, one or half a dozen or 8, just ambling along. We've seen mink playing out on the ice in front of our house in the winter. Never see them during the summer, but we had saw some babies chasing each other and sliding along the ice. Little things like that we just go, man, this is, kind of a special moments, the Northern Lights we see periodically. The sunsets and sunrises are spectacular. My mother always used to say, well, it gets November 1st, it gets cloudy and the sun doesn't shine again till May. Well, Mom, you're wrong. There's wonderful days here. The past couple winters have been, I thought, wonderfully bright. Cold, but wonderfully bright and crisp and fresh. And we just like the easiness of the up north vibe. I mean, it's spectacular.
We've come up for New Year's, Christmas time, so we just come up for a week and a half and stay in the cottage here, which is interesting. The upstairs of our cottage is not winterized, which is where we would sleep because there's not beds down here. So we would sleep with ice on the inside of the walls where we were sleeping. So when we first came up, we were pretty little, and my mom was, I remember like overhearing this conversation. I don't think I was supposed to overhear it, but she was like worried we were gonna die in the night from being too cold. So we'd run up and turn on, we had these like really old janky electric blankets that didn't do much, but we'd run up and turn them on, and then we'd come down and bundle in our like 3 layers of sweatpants and everything and sit by the fire. And once we got up the courage, like run upstairs and like dive under the covers. But it was definitely a very different experience, but seeing Walloon in the winter was very cool as well. It was so quiet, but very peaceful. It was very odd seeing a place you'd seen so many times in such a different way. We'd write our New Year's resolutions on pieces of paper and burn them in this fireplace. We one time tried to make s'mores in here too. That was a little messy, but good times, definitely.
When I say it's unique to what people have back home, I was kind of thinking in terms of what makes Walloon a little bit different or makes it feel a little bit special. And this is the place where people come and have, in my case, it was the first place I drove a boat. It was the first place I went tubing. It was the first place I went water skiing. It was the first place I held a girl's hand. It was the first place I kissed a girl. For most people, certainly me and my friends, this was a place where you kind of grew up and had varied experiences, and you start finding out through those experiences who you are as a person. But when you cut it loose in Walloon, it's different. All of a sudden, your neighbors are from 10, 12 different cities, and you all merge together as one. You all start looking out for each other. You don't lock your doors. A level of freedom that you're not going to get in whatever hometown you came from. And so as a result of that, you get experiences. And a perspective I think that I've gained over the years is it's actually not the house. It's the shared experience that we all have from having the independence and the freedom to have our first boat rides, our first ski, and all of those experiences. That's the Walloon experience. And I think that's why people that are here, whether it's a week or if it's their 100th year in their family legacy, tend to default to Walloon as that special place, their family's perfect North Star. It's where they come back to be family again. It's where they come back to kind of find themselves or feel their heartbeat again. We come back here because this is where we became who we are today. What you miss is you miss the familiarity. I mean, Walloon is the ultimate. You know, it's your most comfortable sweater. It's your favorite place to be. And when you come back from wherever you are, it's your own personal moment of Zen, for whatever Zen is to you. So for my family, we grew up in Hamilton, Ohio, and there's 4 siblings. And I don't think this is unique. This is where we all come back. We come here because this is the shared experience. This is where everyone can just be themselves. It's kind of like going back to college or high school. No one really cares if you've had some incredible business success or incredible business failure. It's not about that. When you're here, we're back to sharing what it is that brought us all together in the first place, which is the shared experience. So that's what you miss. I mean, and that's what you want when you come back is that sense of that Zen-like peace you get from familiarity.
For me, it's the friendships. It's family. It's the family connection. I'm here. I'm relaxed. I can go outside and look around and just take it all in. And the peace that brings, the joy that brings of memories. And I've been really blessed with wonderful friends. And I have my Walloon friends. And it says something about your connection and the things that you commonly hold dear together. We all get back together in the summer and it's like time never stopped. And almost all of my Walloon friends, my childhood friends, are like that. And they're some of the best friends I have in the world. And no matter where we see each other, most of the time it's here. But there's, times when we see each other in our various homes and whatnot. There's just that, you start right back up where you were. That intangible connection that really speaks to true, deep, lifelong friendships. And those are the things of which life is made. That's what makes it special. That's what makes it wonderful. And Walloon has provided that in spades. And that's just, you can't put a price on it. It's in your heart. It's in your soul. That's what it is.
It's the ambiance of the place. It's the slamming screen doors. It's the kids who you hear laughing and jumping in the water. It's when people come down to the village, the laughter going into the grocery store, to the village store to get ice cream or a Wallooner or whatever it might be. It's just the whole ambiance of the place, and you just can't replace that. If we weren't here, there would be a little, and this is dramatic, but it'd be a little hole in your heart that you could not replace. And people who come to Walloon have a kinship, even if they don't know each other, they have a kinship. We see the yellow Walloon Lake sticker on bumpers, and we see them all the time. And if we will search these people out, if we're in a store and they're in a parking lot, what's your name? I'm so and so. We live in. Oh my gosh, yes. Da 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 da. But it's that. It captures you in a way that I think very few places do.
I've come here since I can't remember when. My great-grandfather came here in 1883, and then my grandparents, and then my parents, and so I've been here since I was a baby, and I have some memories of long ago, but it's just like sort of organically part of me, the whole being here. You know, I don't remember coming here any more than you remember being born.
You know, I think, connection to place can mean a lot of things to different people. But in my particular case, between the family history here, the times that we've spent here, and the opportunity that we've had to spend time here, I can't imagine how. I think it's easy for me to see why I and we and my family feel so connected to this place. It's the one thing where we want to do, that we all want to do all the time. My youngest daughter, Gabrielle, she says something like, I feel like when we get to Walloon that we can all finally breathe. And this was coming out of the mouth of a 7 or 8 year old child, but even at that tender age, she recognized the pace of the lives that we lead back in Chicago, and how different things are here. And I think if you want to talk about how an area can have an effect on somebody, even somebody as young as that, I think that statement, which came sort of out of the blue, says everything.
I definitely have a really strong sense of place and home, a strong sense of being here. It's just everything here is it's like a big. This farm is like a big. Sort of blanket. It's a big circular nest. A big circular nest like that. With all the bits in the nest are all the trees and the different animals and the Bear River and the lake, and it's all part of a big nest.
You were, and I were, and all the kids we grew up with were just so, blessed with having this place and the freedom associated with it. And we had good parents that let us explore and do all those things. And again, I grew up in a city, and there were city things, and there were parks with stuff in them. But here we could go down to the river and we could turn rocks over and catch crayfish. We could take a canoe down. Our parents didn't stop us from doing it. They wanted us to have
that freedom. The boat we built together would be another example of something that parents probably shouldn't let their children do, but we're, I guess, broad-minded enough to let us do it. But you'd wake up in the morning here, and if it wasn't raining, your biggest concern was which way is the wind blowing, because if it was blowing one way, you were going to sail, and if it was blowing the other way, you were going to go water skiing. And that was those were the heavy decisions of the day that we had to make up here.
Yeah, it's because the air up here is different. The air is clean, pure, and wonderful. I think it adds to people's lives, really, I think. There's something a little magic about it, in a way, I think. And one thing I was thinking about this place, not so much now, but it's still there. It's more timeless. So it was always special. It became very special right from the beginning.
This lake and its beauty year-round, and its special moments with families and special moments with your individual kids and your grandkids now. It's mesmerizing how it can get a hold of you, and you don't know it. You don't know it's got that kind of hold. So I guess there's been, 2 or 3 kind of moments that have hit me, once when I was a little kid, once when I met the love of my life up here, and then once here when we found our separate property together that wasn't tied to her family or my family, but our own place. And we wouldn't change any of those. I mean, it just can't describe how those moments occurred. And it was a commitment for your life, and they've all been tied to this lake.
When we went to that little stream behind those shops, and we used that really cool minnow catcher, and we got to catch the minnows, and then we used them. We didn't really go fishing, but it was really cool. I liked the stream. I liked the little stream.
used to go swimming, like every year I would go swimming around Memorial Day. And, it was always a big deal, like, who's gonna jump in the lake first? Like, it's cold, are you gonna jump? Are you gonna be brave enough, And you can't even think about it. You have to just do the cannonball off the dock, and get in. You can't like tiptoe it in because it'd be pretty cold. I mean, this water can get absolutely freezing. However, that's what makes it so beautiful and so clear. And I remember I used to swim out in front of our dock, and I'd think, this is the cleanest, clearest water on earth. I mean, in my mind, it was the cleanest, clearest water on earth, and you could drink it. Like, who cares if it got in your mouth? You'd just like be swimming along, and it was just so blue. I've never seen a color of a lake as blue. Sometimes it shows its mood. Like sometimes it's so blue, sometimes it's dark gray, sometimes it's emerald green. I mean, the lake literally has colors that come out with its moods. But it's like the lake is talking to you, telling you what kind of mood it's in. So I really think that, you learn a story almost from the lake. It has a personality. Deep in my heart, I feel like the lake is almost another being, that you relate to it like another being. It's got unconditional love to you, and it you have to respect it. That's what you think about it. It's like an old friend that is a giving, generous friend.
I think about fishing and tubing and just going on the hammock and catching minnows and playing soccer in the front yard and saying hi to neighbors. But I like Walloon because usually when you go into houses, you don't see a TV or things. Then you have to go outside and play and enjoy.
And when you feel the breeze, and you kind of just sit there
and just forget everything that's in your mind.
You can kind of just look out there and you just have time to think. It's kind of like giving your brain a rest, and I think it's a great place to like just hang out and kind of like free your mind.
I don't remember ever really being bored up here. There was just so much to do with the lake and the woods, and we'd scream, kick, and having to go to bed at night, and we'd be the first ones up in the morning. I remember my parents would say, "You can't go upstairs so your grandparents wake up." This is like 6 o'clock, 7 in the morning. Once we heard the footsteps up above and the coffee pot on, then we knew we could run upstairs and start the day. And we did. And they were long days, man. 12, 14-hour days. I think, my favorite type of day up here would be, a little on the hot side, but big wind. I love wind. But some days where it's really howling and it's warm and the trees just come to life, the sound of the wind through the trees is just amazing. And the water lapping and that warm air, it just... And you only get a handful of those days a summer. I can remember 2 or 3 days this summer where I just sat in one spot for a half an hour just staring out and just taking it all in. And I just felt like I'd been through a couple hours of therapy. But the extremes, I like the extremes up here. I've seen storms blow in 10 minutes and, blow out trees and then have the sun come out 20 minutes later. There's always a bit of mystery because if you look at the tree line, you can only see so far, maybe a mile and a half, and you'll be sitting there on a bluebird day and bam, right over the tree line comes the wrath and fury. And you just, you got to love that because it's ever changing up here. It's a mixed bag.
Walloon came into my life in 1941 when my parents bought the cottage that I'm presently living in. My dad wanted to get into boating and sailing, so Dad bought this cottage, and I've been coming back ever since. So there's something special about this place that keeps people wanting to come back. I love the water. I can sit and look at water any day. It doesn't matter whether it's gray or rough or mirror-like, blue. A peace is up here. I find a great peace, just calmness. I mean, you're away from the bustle. And so sailing really was the impetus for getting to know people all around the lake back in the 40s and the 50s. There was a huge gang of young people that pulled us together. Everybody after a race would go down to the foot, and there were big docks down there then. And then you'd all stand on the dock and try and throw the winner in. But I have pictures of my gang and my brother's gang down there. And but the constancy is just this beauty, this peaceful of the lake, and the beauty of this area is just, magnificent.
Oh gosh, it would be a lot of sun on the water, just sparkling like diamonds, waiting for shooting stars in August, the meteor showers, and all the, having the telescope out there to look at the moon, gathering for 4th of July fireworks. Everyone would come to see, we'd have big families gatherings with traditional 4th of July. 4th of July has a lot of memories. Mom loves marching bands, and so she would always wake us up with patriotic marching band music and tons of red, white, and blue bunting, and there'd be firecrackers going off all day long. And then cherry bombs, which, it's kind of scary now to think they'd throw them in the lake and they'd explode underwater. And who knows how many fish that killed and everything else. But that's what they did.
I grew up here, really, in a lot of ways. As I mentioned, I taught sailing. I felt it was pretty neat to get a summer job teaching sailing and running the yacht club. One of my funny stories about running the yacht club was we used to have this big old cannon that we'd start the races with and put blanks in, 12-gauge blanks, and every 5-minute gun or 1-minute gun, I'd pull the string and the cannon would go off, and the start of the race was a big cannon. Well, one day, the cotter pin that held the cannon up got loose, and I pulled the firing string that's attached to the firing pin. And the cotter pin had come out, so the barrel went down, and I blew a hole in the committee boat as the start was going on, and there were splinters going every which way, and the racing boats, the 17s, were covered with splinters from the wood deck of the float boat, and got a big kick out of that. But just memories like that are just kind of special.
There's also the smell of the boathouse that has always been with me my entire life. And it's never seemed to be the same now as it was. It was something I could always count on. It was a cookie stamp smell, maybe because there used to be a putt-putt sitting in that boathouse. But I remember being very young and just standing in that boathouse and breathing. It's the Chris-Craft, it's the lake water, it's the old wooden structure, whatever, the unique blend of smells. There was nothing like it, and I just loved standing in that boathouse and smelling that smell. It was certainly a unique Walloon memory and experience that I really loved.
Well, I call it heaven on earth. And it is a place that brings a spiritual feeling to you. I mean, just look out there. And then my parents started coming up. I think the first time I came up, I was 3 years old. And the only reason I remember that is because I was in a boat out in the front and I caught my first fish. And I was so excited. Of course, it was only, a little bitty thing. And then I remembered the smells of the house. There's certain closets that bring back my grandparents' memories, and even a chest in the dining room. It's like every time I open it, it reminds me of my grandparents. We had a huge hacker craft that had giant motors in it called the Vitamin. And there was a sister ship called the Damien, and those were the fastest boats on the lake. And then my sister and I had a little runabout called the Orlando Miss, and then we had the sailboat. No float boats back then. Nobody knew about float boats. But we spent a lot of time in the boat, skiing and sailing. Back then, there was Renwick's grocery store down at the foot and a little bitty post office. And that was where we all met. We would meet, you met everybody because you were sailing. And after the race, we all went into Renwick's and got chocolate sundaes, and we always ran down to get the mail with each other. And it was just a wonderful happening, wonderful place to be young. It's such a wonderful, it's just a wonderful place. And my friends at home say, we just don't understand it. What do you do up there that makes it so much more special? And I said, I have friends up here that I've known for 70 years. And I knew their parents. And now I know their children and their grandchildren. And it's such a huge family-oriented lake that, you can go to a party and be a 90-year-old and an 80 and 25 and so forth. It's all just like a cohesive group of like-minded people that we all love this place. And a lot of times at dinner parties where I'm with my friends, we will sing Walloon, 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 just as loud as we can. And we may be the only people at the bingo games that really know all the words.
I've been coming here since before I can remember. I've been here every summer of my life, and so I was born in May, end of May, and I was up here in June or July that year. So before I can remember. And I love the place. We lived in Europe for a decade, and every summer, you know, we made it back for at least some time here, except the year we got married. So it's been important to me, and I love the place. One of my first memories is messing around with boats as usual. My dad got us a rowboat / sailboat. The first step was I could row it around, but they put an anchor line on so I couldn't, go too far away. I'd untie the anchor line, so I was free. I still had to keep within the 50-foot radius, so they'd know that, so they wouldn't know that I was free. But I felt like I was free because I wasn't tied up anymore. I could row anywhere. Another sailing story with my dad was when we had a race up in the North Arm, the Country Club Arm. We raced a little bit earlier there because we had lunch in between races, and so we got up there ready for the 10 o'clock start at 9:30 or so, and got closer, and there still wasn't anybody around, and we realized something was going on, so we checked the schedule, and the race didn't start until 11. So we'd gotten up an hour early. We laughed at our mistake and sailed around. But that was one of the best hours of sailing I've ever had on the lake. Just light wind, sailing around with my dad, talking and spending time together with absolutely no other pressure. And we were just on the boat. Didn't have a whole lot of time with him, but that was just one of the best sails. Our daughter Christina, our first child, was baptized up here. I swam out, 100 yards out, dove down and got the baptismal water from the deep under the lake. So that was special, and the kids really loved Walloon, and so it's definitely a very important part. The family connection and the family history is probably bigger. I mean, that's the real anchor.
So I haven't missed a summer since, and sometimes I've come up here for 2 days. I have bought a plane ticket and come here for 2 days. And I will never miss it ever again. It's a fanatic thing, really. So it's where I relate to my whole family. So for me, it's just a whole family place. It's the place where I rejuvenate, where I can be totally relaxed and be myself. It's away from the stress of normal life, and life here is not normal. I mean, everyone's happy and relaxed, and nobody's worried about the power bill or other things, even though, I mean, those things creep up, obviously, but it's just sort of a respite and a place to kind of recharge. And if you don't get it, your whole year's messed up. It's just awful. And we start the countdown for Christmas. My birthday's in January, the 3rd day of January. So I always get the last Christmas present because it's a birthday present. And as soon as I open the last present, we start counting down the days till it's time to come here. I mean, the cottage gets Christmas presents. Usually we buy each other things that we need. And so when the cottage needs new towels, everybody buys each other new towels. So, our Walloon is involved in all of our family stuff. And You know, it's almost a visceral part of our lives, but it's a physical part too. I mean, it's sort of intertwined in everything. My whole outlook on life is really pretty much steered from here. But, you know, Walloon is so calm most of the time that you can't be keyed up here. It's so quiet and pretty and still that you don't get overwrought. It's if you start to feel like you're overwrought, all you have to do is look out a window or go for a walk or sit on the dock, and then you're not overwrought anymore. You know, you get in the lake and the sand at the bottom is on your feet and you're just sort of grounded, and the chill of it shocks the neuroses right out of you. You can't, it just can't be all freaky, you know, not for any extended period of time. I mean, this is the best my family is together, is here. Not that they're terrible other places, but everybody's relaxed, and you get to do a puzzle, or you get to just sit, and you don't have to speak, and you don't have to solve any problems. You just hang out.
I miss how I feel when I'm here. Whether it be tranquility or just how I feel. I mean, it seems like I leave the stress, you know, down the street. It's just so beautiful, so relaxing. And if I do, you know, just come here and do nothing like today, didn't really do anything. It's not like, you know, if I was in Florida, I'd be doing 9 million things. I can come here and do nothing other than just look out. So every one of my kids, my acquaintances, and which is memorable in my mind about Walloon is my grandfather once said he had the money to live wherever he wanted, and he traveled extensively. And he said, but he always came back here. And interestingly, of all the people over all the years that I've brought up here to visit, to stay, will you invite me back? I want to come back. So it's yes, it's in my heart because I grew up here. And all the memories of water skiing, speed skating. It's more of the compliment to know that you come from a place that most people don't know about. First of all, they think we're in Upper Peninsula. When you talk about you live in Northern Michigan. And, but when they get here and see it, I mean, taking them out on a float boat on the water. I mean, and this is before we had all the big mansions. There's a lot of little cottages. It's all about the terrain, the beauty of the lake, the way, you know, the glacier left it, being so close to Little Traverse Bay and Lake Michigan, and it just is a beautiful thing. And of course, it's nice to brag that Hemingway loved it too. I mean, because everybody knows Ernest Hemingway, when you say, well, by the way, as a child, he grew up here, his sister lived here her whole life, and the fact people go, really? And so, and the fact that he would even write about it is a testament to the beauty and how it gets into your system, your heart.
spiritually for me, I think it's, I really remember my Grandma Stevens farm, and being able to go up and spend time with them. And then my Grandpa and Grandma Whitfield lived on the other side of the lake. So I was allowed when I was a young boy to walk the old Indian trail from one house to the other. And I would do it pretty much every other day or every day for most of the summer. And that was pretty unique to be able to be allowed to do that. That was quite interesting. So, but along the way, I used to meet a lot of people along the Indian Trail. The people, the homeowners, and who would stop and chat and visit with them. And there was a guy that everybody used to call Fisherman Sims. And his real name was Ike. I don't know his last name, but I would usually run into him somewhere along the trail, and he'd walk down to the village, and we'd go down to the old Renwick store and the old Brower store and stop in, and he would drop me off somewhere there. We would just sit down on the bench and chat, and he was so kind for, take care of a 5-year-old kid, just kind of enjoy the company. So it was really cool.
The lake itself, we have such a connection to. So as we were driving up, my brother and I would just be asking, "Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we almost at Walloon?" And it was more than "Are we there yet?" It was like, "Are we almost to this awesome place?" And we were both also convinced. Well, I'm still a little convinced that you can smell when you get closer to Walloon. The smell in the air changes. So every time we'd stop, because you have to stop many times when it's such a long drive. I would be like, "Oh, well, I can smell that we're almost there, only 2 more hours." So we were very excited. And then the opposite, when you're getting ready to leave, it's very sad. I think it's the first time, well, with Walloon is the only time I guess I've felt, even from a young age, that it's hard to say goodbye to a thing as much as a person. And that to me really, I remember having this feeling when I was 5 or 6 or something and not really understanding it, but I think it's what it's like to feel like a place is home, to have a connection to a place and to things and to that feeling it gives you as much as to the people that are there.
The thing, I think one thing comes to mind is how many people are in awe of the lake. Yeah, here our farm sits high on this kind of hill overlooking the lake. There's few places on Walloon or around Walloon you can really get a better view of the North Arm especially than from our farm. And it always amazes me every year how many people come in to the farm, look out and say, "Gosh, this has got to be the most beautiful view I have ever seen," or "This has got to be the most beautiful farm market I have ever seen," because they're sitting there looking out at the North Arm of Walloon. And it doesn't matter what time of the year it is, whether it's spring when the green is just starting to show in the trees, whether it's peak summer where the green is that full dark green, whether it's the beauty of autumn or even if it's the dead of winter and it's frozen over and there isn't a leaf on the trees. So many people come in and say, wow, that's beautiful. And you'd think it always has to be the sunny, bright, blue sky day. No, it doesn't matter on the weather, the cloud patterns, the light shades. It always looks different, and it always looks magical in some way. And I hear it day after day, year after year, from people who are coming from all over the world and who have seen so many different places from all over the world, and are coming there to say, you know what, David, this is one of the most beautiful views I've ever seen. And for me, it's really humbling in a way, just to hear that from people. I've never met these people before. I don't know them. I'll never probably see them again. But to hear them truly appreciate in a way that is rare to find today. That it takes them back, it slows them down a little bit, and to say, wow, I'm visiting this area, but it's really helping me appreciate more of where they are at that time. They're really slowing down and just being where they are. And in this day and age, that's, I think, something many people don't do as much as they like. And when they're here, they just walk away with this. There's a sense of peace that comes from that, I think. And it's neat to see that really play out in so many different people.
I have always been spiritually attracted to the outdoors, probably because of Walloon and the first experiences, but I've always been comfortable. I love to sit in the woods before the sun comes up, whether I'm deer hunting or elk hunting or turkey hunting, and you hear things and see things and feel things that you don't when you're walking down a path in the middle of the afternoon. To hear the woods wake up, to hear a fish splash or a grouse drumming on a log, you have to get out and sit down and be quiet. I love being in nature. I love to also just watch fish in the water, birds flying, deer wander by. I'm very much connected to the outdoors, and I certainly credit Walloon with putting that into my soul. But I tell you, I came in college for the first time in the fall, and the leaves were turning mid-October, and it absolutely blew me away. It was so quiet. I mean, you could hear the leaves falling in the grass sitting on the porch. I think it was an Indian summer weekend, and I was absolutely blown away at the beauty here. It was so quiet and gorgeous and peaceful, and right then, fall became my favorite time here. And I don't get to come up very much in the fall. There's kids' activities, there's football games, soccer games, but fall is very underrated, and I think a lot of people don't know about Walloon in the fall. It is just absolutely gorgeous in its own right. It is for me that it's a place I can go and nothing matters. If something's going on in my business life or personal life, or there's some issues or struggles going on, when I come up the highway and make the turn into Walloon, it's like it just runs off my back. It's like that cord is snipped, and I just am able to decompress and relax and put everything into perspective and say, wow, what's really important, what matters? And it's always been that place for me where I can go and it's like, oh, everything's okay in the world.
consider me to be very fortunate to be able to live here year-round and enjoy it. Everything that Walloon is and has to offer, because many people aren't able to, they can come for a short amount of time and they try to enjoy it. But I don't forget when I'm here every day, I don't forget to stop and appreciate the beauty around me. I haven't grown to where I don't notice it. There's nothing like going to Petoskey and popping over the top of the hill and coming down and seeing the view of the bay, Little Traverse Bay. I mean, that's just breathtaking. Or coming home from Petoskey and looking into the North Arm. I just take every day as a gift here because the beauty surrounds us anywhere you look. It's important too to have inner peace. And if you are somewhere else and you have this longing to be here and this feeling of unrest or uneasiness, and then it all goes away when you get back, then that told me I just need to be here. I need to live here. I'm happy here. Being here makes me happy. And you know what? The older we get, I think it becomes more important to be happy and to find what makes you happy and do it.
It's hard to describe because it's a feeling, and feelings are hard to elaborate on. But it's the feeling of sitting here, like last night. The sunset was just amazing. Once we decided that this is where we wanted to be, we decided that this is probably where we would retire, because we became very involved in the community. And I grew up in a small town, and I like small towns. And that first weekend when we came up with the kids to look at the cottage, there was a fireman's picnic. And we fell in love with the village, with the fact that there was a community. So it was just the whole package. It was the lake and the community. Well, I could not live in a place that didn't have 4 seasons. I mean, I love the spring, if it ever comes, but the fall with the leaves and just, we were one of the last ones to take our boats out because we want to take a boat ride and see and where else can you do that? I mean, we had hats and mittens this year and gloves and, and blankets, and we took another couple and we just went around the whole basin. But it's just, when the kids were little, we'd get on I-75 and everybody would just be agitated. They couldn't wait to get here. And that continued all the way through. And then when you hit Thumb Lake Road, your heart flutters, and then you see that the blinker light was always coming down the hill, going towards, it was always I Spy the Blinker Light, and whoever the kid could see it first. And I don't know, just the anticipation, it was like coming home.
after college, myself and two buddies, we decided we were going to drive to Anchorage. We got in a little car. We drove to Anchorage from Indianapolis. And this was early June, so school had just gotten out. So we drive. It's going to be about a 2-month odyssey. We drive to Anchorage, get jobs. After a few weeks, we decided to drive from Anchorage to Tijuana. And we did all this over 2 months. But I remember getting back to Indy. We'd driven over 10,000 miles. And the very next day, I packed a bag and got in a car and drove to Walloon. I got to get there. It's, 1st of August. I've been away all summer. I'll just never forget that. I was like, after 10,000 miles, I got in the car the very next day. So I got to get the hell out of here. But it's kind of hard to explain to people. It's trying to explain an emotion. Everyone's seen pretty lakes and pretty parts of the country, but to really express what it means to you in words is sort of futile. I don't, but that's, the thing, I go to other lakes and reservoirs. Like I've got other friends that have places downstate and in Indiana, and they're sort of murky reservoirs, but they love them as much as I love this place. It's the emotional attachment, and you try not to, you got to be very careful when you go to other people's lakes. You don't want to come off as a snob. Like, are you going to really get in that water? I mean, that looks like coffee. It's a muddy bottom. It feels like pudding. You're like, really? What's the love here? This is a ditch. I just don't have that attachment, that lifelong attachment that I have here. And that's really what, that's the difference between just pretty and, more soul shaking. It leads to that. It's a combination of friends and comfort and aesthetics, and it just blows up all your sensories, and it's just a heartwarming place to be. And it's funny. I've been a lot of places, 4 corners of the country, and your mind starts to wander back here and kind of wondering what the weather's doing or who's up, or that's always seems to be kind of the end goal. Get thyself north.
When I got a little bit older, being kind of introspective at times, thinking about having the summer to kind of evolve a little bit, come back to school the next year a little slightly different, a little more mature, a little more experienced, a little older, a little wiser. It's kind of a place to come and, find myself or become more of myself or change. And would get back to school and always remember feeling a little different, a little better. I guess there's that thought. I'm just one of these people. I kind of try to look at the whole picture, and I guess somewhere in the back of my mind I have that thought of what if I don't ever come back here, for whatever reason, so just wanting to savor the moment, the times that I'm here. And we do a lot of work kind of things, and maybe they're just chores actually, but try to improve things and clean things and different things, care for things. And I end up leaving a lot of those to the end. I don't want to do them too soon, so it's like, so I'm kind of working myself out the door, but at the same time, and when I leave out of here, I usually drive by the public beach and towards the foot to get back on my highway to get myself home. And I always look over and I just tell the lake I love it. I love you, lake, and I will be back soon, and I always kind of say that. And And I always mean that and hope that's always the case, that I get to come back. So I would say that I am most grateful and thankful, but definitely I don't think I take it for granted. I'm a caregiver. I'm a caretaker. So I'm going to do my part to take care of this area and, and the lake and whatnot. And so definitely don't take it for granted, I don't think.
I think of peace when I go to get my blood pressure checked. I'm a pilot. I have a pilot's license, and I have to get my blood pressure checked every so often because it's borderline high blood pressure. And whenever I go to do that, when they're putting the cuff on, I just start thinking about Walloon because I think it lowers my blood pressure. So, I don't know. I have a lot of happy thoughts. I have a lot of bittersweet thoughts because I look at pictures and they're filled with people that are ghosts now. That were doing basically what we're doing today. Sitting here talking. Our parents were doing this 20 years ago or more recently. So there's that adjective. But yeah, there's a purity and a freshness about it. Just the air is the air is crystal clear. Usually, it's just every once in a while we'll get a day at home and we'll say this is a Walloon day. The blue sky day where there's no humidity and the wind's blowing just right. It's just it's a magic place. I guess that's what you're getting at. How do you describe the magic to them? And I don't know that you can until they're here. But I love introducing people to this part of the country. I just get a real thrill out of welcome to my world, and some of them are amazed. They're like, let me get this straight. You came up here every summer of your life. You got to do that?
Definitely connection to place, like smell. The smell of the grass was so much more grand than when I was anywhere else. The smell of the trees, the crows cawing outside of our house. You could hear those crows on a quiet day. That's the one thing I noticed, that being up here, and what drove the connection to this place is that it's quieter. Like, you can hear nature up here. The trees across the lake would start to turn, so there'd be all this beautiful bright color, and then you could see the smoke coming from their chimneys up over the trees, and it was just really a scene out of a movie or something. It was just the most peaceful, quiet centering. It's almost like a centering of yourself when you're really stop talking and listen to nature, and the nature that's around this lake. It's almost like it's talking to you.
The fun conversations can be with someone who makes an argument for, as we say, the three arms and a foot, whether or not the south arm is better than the west arm, which is better than the north arm, or is it better being in the foot. I think when we have those conversations around the lake, those are family arguments. Those are family discussions that you have with your brother or sister, which is why my part of the lake's better than yours. But it's within the realm of, we all know it's the best lake in the world. And we're not going anywhere else. We're just arguing for our little plot of land. Yes, there's a theme of we're sentimental. It means a lot to us, and there's history. But I hope somehow what squeezes out of it all is that the Walloon experience is unlike. I want to say it's the best experience, because they're all great experiences. I mean, someone's not having a bad experience elsewhere, and they're all unique experiences. But I just think ours is the best experience. I really do. I'm serious about that. It's pretty badass. There you go. Bam. Bam.
But it goes something like this. Of all the seasons that are offered throughout the year I hold, autumn is my favorite, not hot and not too cold. All of the master's splendor spills across the countryside. At night a farmer's harvest moon takes my soul for a ride. Bright orange pumpkins, ripe red tomatoes, vegetables of choice. The season is so perfect, it is a sin not to rejoice. So as I sit here pondering, Mother Nature prepares for sleep. I have to drink all of this in, autumn's beauty I now reap. It won't be long and God again will wave his magic wand. The land before me will turn white, warm clothes I'll have to don. Snow and frost, their turn is next. More beauty I will savor. A brand new season will arrive, then winter I shall favor. Simple little poem. It's meant to go on, and maybe meaning that all the seasons are your favorite.